Facebook whistleblowers have leaked documents to Project Veritas about Facebook's plan to secretly censor vaccine concerns on a global scale. This may be one of the most important and biggest stories Veritas has ever done. And it's probably just because the escalation in censorship is getting to a very extreme degree. When Facebook says, we're going to ban hate speech, it's against our policies, there's an actual argument there. I think it's one I don't agree with. But the argument is people are posting hate-filled nonsense, which makes these platforms awful to use. And certain people should have the ability to go on these platforms without being insulted or smeared or slammed or harassed or whatever you want to argue. I think they're bad arguments, but there's something there. It's not free speech. It's a private corporation. Okay, I disagree. I think private corporations, when they become too large, should be regulated to a certain degree. There's an argument. Facebook wants to ban vaccine concerns. Now hold on. I'll tell you why this is one of the most important stories. We know Facebook says we're going to ban anti-vax content. We're going to flag things that are fake news. We know Twitter. We know YouTube will do all of that as well. So this story about Facebook goes one step beyond what we're learning from this information. Let me start by saying, and forgive me for the suspense, but I have to say this because YouTube would love to ban me in 2 seconds. You got to talk to your doctor. You shouldn't be getting your medical advice from your neighbor, Dolores or whatever, from Joe Rogan, from Dr. Fauci. Fauci is just a TV guy who flip-flops. Joe Rogan is a comedian, and your neighbor doesn't have a medical degree. I've had a lot of people say, Tim, don't shill for vaccines or whatever. And I'm like, dude, if you don't trust your doctor, I don't know what to tell you. OK, if the fire investigator comes and says, here's what started the fire, I just say, OK, because they're the expert and I have to trust them. Now, I don't trust TV people. And you shouldn't blindly just take everything I say for fact either. So you go to your doctor and say, here's my concern. Here's what I've heard. The doctor will then say, here's what I think is best for you. So, YouTube wants to tell you what you can or cannot say. I'm here to say I'm not going to give anybody medical advice. If you don't trust your doctor, get a second opinion. But if you can't trust a doctor, then you're in really bad shape. It's the best we can do, okay? It really is. Look, doctors in the past used to make them drink mercury or whatever. And we know that was bad. We know that we're constantly learning, but your best bet, talking to your doctor. This is where things get creepy. Now, I've advocated to an extreme degree of just like getting sound medical advice on your own with your doctor because it makes the most sense. Dr. Fauci is an idiot, and Joe Rogan is a comedian who calls himself an idiot, okay? I think they're both, to a certain degree, smart. But don't get your medical advice from a comedian. Here's the problem. How will you know what to tell your doctor when Facebook is censoring true information? No joke. True events or facts. This is what makes this story the most shocking. Facebook has moved beyond flagging false information. Facebook now says they are going to censor true information. And there it is. They have graduated from, as predicted, just censoring what they said was fake news. We're like, BS. First of all, that's not fake news. You're lying. The mainstream media is lying. How long until Facebook comes out and Zuckerberg, with his robot smile, goes, we're going to ban it even if it's true, because it goes against what we want. And what they want is to beat you over the head and force you to do things without consent. Informed consent, in my opinion, is a must for any medical procedure. So when I see these people outside like a 7-Eleven or whatever, and they're doing vaccines, I'm like, bro, my advice is you go to a professional, you go to your doctor, and you talk to them to get your vaccine or whatever you want to do. I will also add mRNA technology, as described, it's actually pretty awesome. If you have an issue with something, I think every individual has a right to agree or disagree and make the choices that's best for them with sound medical advice. Facebook is denying your consent. There's a bunch of videos going around of like magnets on arms, and I'm just, dude, it is really annoying. There's a really funny picture where a guy stuck a pot to his arm because you can. And he was like, look, it's working. Whatever, man. You don't need to get your information from viral videos on the internet. Let me just stress, if there was any like widespread craziness happening, don't you think your doctor would be getting inundated with phone calls? Do you think your doctor is lying to you? No, I genuinely think about it. Let's say you live in an area with, 10,000 people. So how many people are going to that doctor? Probably a lot. If there were very serious issues, don't you think people would be going back to the doctor saying, I'm having some side effect or some complication? Then when you talk to your doctor, do you think they would withhold that from you? I really don't think so. So make the decisions that best for you. Here's where it gets creepy. Veritas says, Facebook whistleblowers exposed leaked internal documents detailing new effort to secretly censor vaccine concerns on a global scale. They go on to say, 2 Facebook insiders have come forward to Project Veritas with leaked internal documents showing big tech's plan, Facebook, to police vaccine hesitancy through surreptitious comment demotion. The company has set up a tier system to rank comments on various scales based on how much the statement questions or cautions against the vaccine. Tier 2, for instance, represents indirect discouragement of getting vaccinated. And according to PV sources, user comments such as these would be heavily suppressed. It doesn't matter if the comments are true, factual, or represent reality. The comment is demoted, buried, and hidden from view of the public if it clashes with the system. It doesn't match the narrative, one insider explained. The narrative being, get the vaccine is good for you. Everyone should get it, and if you don't, you will be singled out. I have a lot of friends. I have thousands of friends. I have seen a few stories that have freaked me out, but I have seen 2 stories from people I know personally, and one who is a good friend who had nerve damage after getting the vaccine. I can't tell you what's right for you, and I can't tell you that the one post I saw is indicative of anything other than side effects exist, which is why I'm just like, I'm not going to play any of these games. I'm not going to play any games where I tell you what to do. That's stupid. That's why I just keep saying over and over and over again, leave me out of it. You got to talk to your doctor. Here's the issue. I had a friend who got hurt. I would like to go to the doctor when I'm talking about the vaccine and ask them about this. If Facebook is suppressing true and factual information, you won't know what to ask about. So how can you give informed consent? Therein lies the big problem. One of the insiders, a data center technician, leaked multiple internal documents detailing an algorithm test being run on 1.5% of Facebook and Instagram's nearly 3.8 billion users worldwide. The goal? To drastically reduce user exposure to vaccine hesitancy in comments. They're trying to control this content before it even makes it onto your page, before you even see it. The authors of the plan are credited as Ju Ho Yo, Nick Gibeon, Hendrik Townley, Amit Ball, and Matt Gillies. And so we have this document here from Veritas. I'm not going to read through all of it, but they say, executive summary. What is your goal? Drastically reduce user exposure to vaccine hesitancy in comments. Why? Why would they do this? Look, I understand that there is a real concern about a pandemic. I understand that we've developed a new vaccine technology and many people are going and getting it. And Facebook wants to make sure that everyone stays safe, right? My bigger concern is what happens when, for one, like I mentioned, no informed consent because you aren't getting access to information from your own friends and family. But what happens when they start, what's the next step on this? Facebook saying suppress Pepsi so you can only see Coke? Yes. Facebook knows when you poop. I think it's funny. You think I'm joking. They do. They go on to say, what are the benefits of this launch? VPVs on vaccine post English comments. I don't know what that means. Wow. Projected launch impact. And there's a bunch of numbers and whatever that is. What is VPV? I don't know. So they say, let me just read through it. The goal of the framework is to identify and tier the categories of content that could discourage vaccination in certain contexts. Borderline vaccine framework goal. We aim to identify and tier the categories of non-violating content that could discourage vaccination in certain contexts, thereby contributing to vaccine hesitancy or refusal. We have tiered these by potential harm and how much context is required in order to evaluate harm. They say in Facebook Inc.'s COVID-19 vaccine offense and defense work, the goal is to understand how using the family of apps contributes to or detracts from vaccine uptake. The COVID-19 health behavior change framework illustrates how 2 types of drivers of intent and drivers of action, both contribute ultimately to vaccine behavior. Let me just slow down for a second. We can put the vaccine stuff aside. Facebook is outright social engineering, period. This is mass social engineering. Facebook is deciding what is best for you and what you are allowed to see, think, or say. We're here, man. Welcome to the brave new world. Welcome to the nightmare dystopia. I can understand you want to have a conversation about vaccines and why they're important. I can understand why you want people to get vaccinated. But this is Facebook saying, we know what's better for you. You shouldn't see comments from your own friends who are talking about this. They are trying to control public perception. Facebook is. Nobody elected them. Nobody's given them this right to do it. I went on the Play Store on Google and I gave them a 1 rating because the app's terrible. There's no customer support. Things don't work. The rules are vague. And then I see 5-star reviews for Facebook and I'm like, who's going on the Play Store or the App Store and giving Facebook 5 stars? That's insane to me. They go on to say, Facebook also established a vaccine hesitancy scoring system to establish numerical thresholds for certain content. The company instituted tiers to describe the tone of certain posts, with some being categorized as sensational and alarmist or criticizing choice. The responses range from outright removal to comment demotions. Criticizing choice, really, really interesting. I think people should just make the choice for what's best for them. I'm not going to tell you what you can or can't do. Here's the vaccine policy. Remove at scale violating COVID vaccine, M&H, and WDH, RFH. I don't know what those things mean. They go on to say, inform on all COVID vaccine content. So this is B2V inform, personal objection, skepticism, neutral discussions, and debate. And we've seen this. So when my friend posted that he had an injury, there was a thing saying, get all the facts about COVID. And I'm like, so they just flagged it. I mean, that to me is crazy. I suppose in this modern world, you will get a lot of fringe information at the forefront, notably police brutality. It's a good example of this. I talk about it quite a bit. You might have 375 million police interactions and 29 unarmed, black men being killed. But the only thing Facebook will show you is those 29 people. So it seems to most people like something crazy is happening, when in reality, it is just a tiny minority. That could be true with a lot of the vaccine stuff. They say another document from the aforementioned Hendrik Townley discusses more data points following the experiment with demoting VH comments. One part of the document admits to demoting comments and reducing the rate of likes while conducting a test of 1.5% of the company's audience. Reducing the rate of likes. Think about that. Other posts discussing the unique double dose of certain vaccines were described as objective high and outlined a position change. Descriptions of the type of content that falls into tier 0, 1, and tier 2. Here's a list here showing it. They say indirect discouragement is tier 2. Alarmism and criticism is tier 1. And then they say violations of policies coordinating harm. That's interference and explicit discouragement. Calls to action, advocating or promoting others not to get the vaccine. That's really interesting. In tier 1, which is alarmism, they say criticizing choice to receive or provide, disparaging others on the basis of their choice to vaccinate or on their choice to vaccinate others. Exaggerated conclusions, denialism. Content about vaccines and vaccination that suggests or implies that vaccines are unsafe, ineffective, sacrilegious, or irrelevant. Sacrilegious. That's really interesting. Facebook can now determine what is religious or not. Imagine you're a rabbi or a priest or an imam or a monk, whatever, and you're telling people here's what scripture says. Facebook decides you're not allowed to preach your own faith. That's great, isn't it? Regulate these companies, please. Indirect discouragement is shocking, possibly true, or unproven severe side effects or death. Possibly true. Wow. An enforcement document obtained by one of the insiders showed Facebook's goal of reducing the distribution of comments seemingly skeptical of COVID vaccination. Facebook document details how many languages their vax safety policy will be able to detect for suppression. Facebook's vaccine hesitancy project leaders listed in company chain of command, reporting directly to Mark Zuckerberg. So this is a bunch of executives and directors. Facebook's Ben Freeman sends internal messages to colleagues informing them of data gathering and action to be taken regarding COVID-19 vaccines. They go on to mention who are the people working behind the project, the tiering system. They say the content demotion explained. We saw this already. The VAERS data analyzed by Facebook. There's a lot in here. It's very straightforward. They go on to just, Veritas ends by outlining a lot of this. mentioning Facebook describes what it classifies as shocking stories in regard to vaccines. Shocking stories, potentially or actually true events or facts that can raise safety concerns, indicated by sharing the following either without context or with hyperbolic terms. Here's the problem I have with this. If something true is happening, shouldn't this be reported? But if Facebook is suppressing it, people won't know about it. Something true. What if someone was like, I saw a crazed man with a knife outside of someone's house, and Facebook's like, well, it may be true, but remove it because it's scary. And then that person commits crime. Content pointing to the vaccine adverse events reporting system that suggests extreme risks without providing full context. What's full context? Define that. Content that pairs a shocking story with vague statements such as, look at what happened after she got vaccinated. Content describing individual personal stories of extreme safety risks or health harms after vaccination that may undermine or discourage vaccination. Excruciating pain after my second vaccine, shaking so bad almost to convulsions. What? They're removing people just explaining what happened? I must be lucky that I saw my friend's post. Content citing news articles about individuals. Also, it's really weird that they're mentioning that excruciating pain after second vaccine, shaking so bad almost to convulsions. Hold on. Is that happening enough to where they had to flag that and have those removed? That's creepy. Facebook should not be doing this. This is actually going to discourage more people. That's the problem. Talk to your doctor. Content citing news articles about individuals experiencing adverse events after receiving a vaccine. Facebook is literally suppressing the news. I hope you've been paying attention to this stuff. Content referencing expected mild side effects would be labeled as neutral, not shocking, such as redness, swelling, blah, blah, blah. Here's from the Daily Mail. I covered this yesterday on my main channel. Liberal media's dramatic flip-flop. A year after left-wing news trashed theory that COVID originated from a Wuhan lab, when Trump supported the suggestion, outlets now throw their support behind the idea. This is the problem. Let's say there's a news story that says this is true. Facebook has determined we will suppress this. Suppressing legitimate news, not fake news, true news being suppressed by Facebook because they have an agenda, a social agenda. I don't know what to say. Republicans won't do anything. You know, Democrats are parasites. They extract from the system, and the Republicans are paid to watch them do it. That's what's happening right now. Facebook can do whatever it wants. No one's going to do anything about it. The whistleblowers, it's great news, but this is what we get. You get a massive unaccountable corporation censoring true news, not fake news, true news. We're here. What's the next thing? Stories that are negative about Facebook, and Facebook says it could undermine the integrity of their operations and keeping people safe. So we must remove that story about Mark Zuckerberg punching chickens. Mark Zuckerberg went to a farm and started punching goats in the face. And then Facebook says, we got to ban all that information. Yep. This is where we're headed. You may not want a President Zuckerberg, but you've already got one. Yeah, Biden maybe can do so much because he's constrained, but these massive private organizations can do whatever they want. Nothing is stopping them. Mark Zuckerberg only has to worry about how hard he can push without destabilizing the system. He doesn't have to worry about any opposition. Oh, I mean, Ted Cruz might yell at the guy as if that does anything, as if that matters. The federal government is too weak, and it's probably because Facebook controls the flow of information. We know big tech censored news about Hunter Biden. We've seen the polls that suggest if the story was out there, people would not, 6%, I believe, would not have voted for Biden. Would have been a very different election. So big tech is manipulating our politics. They're manipulating the news and information we can get. Welcome to your new big tech corporate overlords. Democrats aren't doing anything to fight about it because they're just doing literally what the big tech allows them. I posted this on Twitter. Bill Burr going, I don't know anything about, this. I just turn the TV on once every 2 weeks and I do what the TV tells me. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's funny. It's funny that he's like, I'm not going to sit here without a medical degree, from the Joe Rogan podcast. Listen to you talk about this without a medical degree. That's a good point. That's the point I make. But then he goes, I'm just going to turn on the TV once every 2 weeks. Are you serious? Bro, call a doctor. I turn the TV on and do what the TV tells me to do. That's right. That's Bill Burr. He's supposed to be a smart guy. Now he just does what the TV tells him to do. Most people just do what the Facebook tells them to do. Mark Zuckerberg is literally taking over the world. And nobody cares. I mean, I guess people care, but they ain't going to do anything about it. I don't know if they can at this point, unless there was a mass uprising and, people taking to the streets protesting against Facebook, which I really doubt will happen. Democrats won't stop Facebook. They want more censorship. They want to give Facebook more control. And Republicans just sit there wagging their finger at Facebook and doing nothing. So what do we get? Well, maybe it's all time we just welcome our new Mark Zuckerberg overlord and just bow before his grandeur and do as he dictates, because he can just make Facebook ban whatever he wants at this point, even if it's real news. And that's it. And Veritas, the ones who expose this, are the ones accused of being the fake news. Isn't it amazing? Good luck sharing this video on Facebook. No joke. I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube even takes this video down. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you then.